Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Sharif Ishak coming to you in 30 minutes. We'll talk some Pels as they've had a bunch of front office shakeup. Zion on the trading block, or maybe he's not on the trading block. We'll talk about all that with Sharif half an hour from right now. I just heard in the Sports Center that the NBA playoff tournament begins tonight, which makes sense. The Pel season just wrapped up over the weekend, and it made me think just briefly, and this is how my weird brain is wired. I've watched the NBA Finals from Omaha 3 different times. So I know that the College World Series and the NBA Finals often share dates. And they're starting the playoffs today. LSU still has 5 weeks of SEC play, then the SEC tournament 6, then the regional 7, then the super regional 8, then the College World Series. Like this, the playoffs in the NBA last forever, just forever, which is fine. Like, I don't have a problem with it. It's just something worth noting that, like, we're not even close to Omaha around here, and that's where this playoff is going. So just interesting. I thought that popped into my brain. If LSU wants to get to Omaha, they're going to need to score some runs, which they didn't do over the weekend. And they're probably going to have to score some runs tonight because this is a McNeese team that is coming in playing great baseball. Justin Hill, former LSU Tigers, the head coach at McNeese. He's got the Cowboys off to their best start in school history. They are 27-5 to this point. They are 14-4 in Southland play. They have the nation's longest current winning streak at 12 games right now, coming off a sweep of Incarnate Word. So it's a good McNeese team. It's got an RPI in the high 20s. And I will tell you this. They will try over the course of the next 5 weeks to put together a resume that says they are an at-large team. Now, it's going to be difficult to do that in the Southland Conference, but it is possible. And if they are trying to put together a bid to be an at-large, this would be a really nice feather in their cap to get this win. Not the end-all, be-all, but it would be a nice feather in their cap to get this win. So you're going to get a motivated McNeese team that I think could use some high leverage pitchers. Like, I'm not going to dive into the McNeese pitching staff deeply. I'm not going to go into pitch counts. Like, I'm just saying you're facing a team tonight that is really going to give you their best swing, because rarely do these midweek games mean a ton. And this one may not for either team, but it might for McNeese. So they're going to come in guns blazing. This is not one of those midweek games for LSU that if you lose, it's a black mark on your resume. This is not a 246 RPI that you're losing to if you were to lose. This is a top 30 RPI right now that you'd be losing to. The SEC's got a bunch of teams in the top 30. So it's not a spot for a bad loss for LSU. It is a big spot for a potential win for McNeese. So with that said, LSU's got to wake up the bats. They have to. I laid out yesterday the struggles that this team has had from a numbers perspective. They're awful. But I don't believe it to be a significant question mark with the team. I don't think Jared Jones going whatever it was, 1 for 13 with 6 strikeouts is cause for immense concern. Jared Jones is a 360 hitter that has a chance in the next 4 weeks, to become the 3rd all-time home run hitter in the history of LSU baseball. He's going to be okay. Incidentally, Jared Jones has 7 home runs against midweek competition this season. I'd like to see that added to tonight. As far as pitching goes for LSU, you've got the same cast of characters that you're essentially used to in the midweek. William Schmidt is ready to go after a really nice midweek effort last week in Thibodaux. I think Connor Ware is ready to go after a nice effort in Auburn. I think that Connor Benj is obviously ready to go. Maverick Rizzi is obviously ready to go. DJ Primo is obviously ready to go. Jaden Newt is obviously ready to go. So that's a lot of arms. And I think based on a fairly light workload of 22 pitches on Sunday, if LSU's got a 5-4 lead in the ninth inning in the game tonight, I think it's reasonable for Case and Evans to go pitch that ninth inning. Something good's got to happen for LSU here. That was a stinker of a weekend. And it was a stinker in multiple facets. It was a stinker because you lost all 3 games, obviously. But the fact that you didn't score but once in the first 7 innings of all 3 games combined, that's just playing from behind, playing under pressure, frustration, struggling. There was no rhythm to the game for LSU. Something good needs to happen. Now, I chronicled last week entering the Nichols game, like LSU is feasted on these teams in the first inning. Just big run totals. 7 spot on Louisiana Tech, 9 spot on whoever it was. I think it was UL Lafayette. You had 7 spot on North Dakota State. Xavier, you scored a ton in the first inning. Like, it was a lot of early action so that you could settle in and kind of feel comfortable. And LSU, I'm not expecting them to score 6 or 9 runs on Auburn in the first inning, but I would like, hey, there's a 3-0 lead. Like, you got the home run from Milam early in the game on Saturday. That's really all the early offense that you got. That needs to change tonight. They need to come out, swing the bats better. Defense let them down over the weekend. That needs to improve. I don't know who McNeese is planning on throwing in this game. I guess technically it could be in their game notes, so I'll give that a click here as I continue to go through my notes. But I don't care who McNeese throws. I don't care if he's right-handed or left-handed. That's not my concern in this game. LSU's got enough guys from both sides of the plate to swing the bat and get the job done offensively. They did not do it in Auburn. So I don't have a starter projected for McNeese here, but they do have a really good lineup. They've got 4 guys in their lineup that are hitting .330 or better. They've got a 5th guy that's got 9 home runs. It was a monster week for Connor Westenberg. He was the Southland Conference Hitter of the Week. He was 10 for 18 last week, which is .556. He had a double, 2 triples, 6 driven in. So they got a good team. They've got a regional team, and that's a team that LSU needs to go out and outclass tonight. Because as good as McNeese is, and they're a good team in the Southland Conference, they're not anywhere near LSU's level. So that's just the reality of the situation. So I'm interested in the game tonight. I think McNeese has more to gain than LSU does to lose. I think LSU needs to come out and swing the freaking bats and catch the ball. The pitching should take care of itself. LSU has played great in these midweek games all season. I believe they're 11-0 at this point in midweek games. They had a few 2 midweek game weeks early in the season. And they've handled everything that's been thrown at them. You handled a trip to Dallas Baptist to play in a big league park. You handled a road trip to Thibodeau where your offense wasn't great. You've handled a Monday game. You've handled a couple of Wednesday games. You've scored a lot early. Like, they've handled everything that's been tossed at them in the midweek, and they're, I think, the only SEC team that's done that to this point. As I've said the last 3 weeks, like, statistically speaking, you will probably drop one of these games this year. We'll see if it's tonight. McNeese is a good team. They're going to come in with a lot to play for. So LSU and McNeese tonight, 6:30 first pitch. If you'd like to listen to it, you can do so over on Eagle 98.1. That's our sister station. It'll be Chris Blair and Doug Thompson on the pregame at 6 o'clock. LSU and McNeese from the box tonight. We'll react to it on tomorrow's show. All right, Sharif Ishak coming up in about 15, 18 minutes from right now. Come back with more. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Shout out to Anissa Morrow, who's the 7th pick in the WNBA draft last night, headed to the Connecticut Sun. Second year in a row that LSU has had the 7th overall pick in the WNBA draft. Angel Reese to Chicago last year. Anissa Morrow. I did not realize Anissa Morrow, top 25 all-time in women's college basketball history in scoring. She led the nation in rebounding this past year. Just monster double-double numbers as well. So best of luck to Anissa Morrow as she heads to the Connecticut Sun. This Nico Iamaleava story doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'll be real honest with you. If the most obvious thing is true, and if this is hypothetical, mind you, I don't have any details, but if this is true, it just blows my mind. If it's true that Nico Iamaleava had an agreement for $3 million, whatever the case may be, and his camp just assumed, well, somebody will pay me a lot more than that. Tennessee, you better do it. And then Tennessee was like, we're good. You don't really do all that much here. We're going to go get another quarterback. And then he was like, all right, I'm here. Former 5-star who wants to pay me more than $3 million after I just went out there and threw for 17 touchdowns and 8 interceptions and rode a running game and a defense to the playoffs. And then a bunch of crickets started chirping, and like Tulane raised their hand, and UCLA, who gives away tickets to their home games, was like, hey. And then all of a sudden we realized that nobody's really interested, and now he's just out of luck. If that is what happened, I cannot believe this. And I think one of the things that I keep going back to as I analyze this story and we wade into this new world of college sports is when you make decisions purely based on money, there just are more opportunities for things to go wrong. And I realize that it is really easy for someone to look at me and go, what do you know? No one's ever offered you $3 million to do anything. Like, how could you put yourself in that situation? I can't. But I feel like there should be some significant consideration to coaching. Should be some significant consideration to teammates. Should be some significant consideration to winning. Like, that should matter on some level. And from the outside looking in, and I'm very careful to put that qualifier on all this because I don't know how all these discussions have been handled. When this is a contract dispute, a lot more is on the table in the professional ranks. This is all kind of smoke and mirrors. But when you just eliminate coaching from the equation, eliminate teammates from the equation, eliminate winning from the equation, and you just purely come to the table and say, how much money can I get right now? That oftentimes is going to come with a lot of complications. It just feels, and it feels like, I don't know this, it feels like Nico Iamaleava and or his camp have made a grave, grave mistake. It feels like that. We don't have resolution. I don't know what's going to happen. There may be a college football playoff contender with deep pockets that has a meeting with him, determines he's the guy that they really think can change their fortune, and he's going to make double what he got at Tennessee, and he's going to be in the college football playoff and in the semifinals, and he'll be the 3rd pick in the draft next year. Like, for all I know, that's what's coming. But it feels like someone who did not have all the cards in their deck decided to go all in. And now everyone's calling and you don't have any cards. And that's sad to me to an extent. It's sad. Because while I've said this from the start, like I like the fact that college athletes can make some money because I think there are a lot of college athletes that deserve to capitalize on the name, image, and likeness that they have created through hard work and success. But this handout demand thing is a little bit much. And it feels like there are mistakes being made, bridges being burned, lack of consideration for any other aspect of this time in life, which is collegiate athletics, to just go chase dollars. And I just don't know if that's the point. And again, I've been saying something to that extent for a week following the story, but it keeps progressing. The first was the report that he's not happy. Then the report that he's not at practice. Then the report that they're parting ways. Now the report that here are the schools that are involved. Now the report that Tulane says they're not. Tulane, what world are we talking about here where a championship-level player is leaving the University of Tennessee for Tulane? Like, do you think we may have made a wrong turn here? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Tulane draws 37 fans. Tennessee is a top 5 winning program in the history of the sport. We're taking meetings with Tulane now? That the whole thing just it almost makes me sad. And I don't have any dog in the fight here. I don't care about Tennessee football. I don't care about Tulane football. I don't care about UCLA football. And it doesn't affect me one way or another if Nico Iamaleava makes $3 million or $30. But I can sit back and look at this and go, playing football at the University of Tennessee for Josh Heupel and that roster in that stadium in this conference for $3 million is a pretty good spot to be in. It's not like they're giving the screws to you here. They made you one of the wealthiest recruits ever. And this is what you decide to do with that? And again, I don't know if Nico's calling the shots here. I don't know if his dad is calling the shots here. I don't know if there's an agent involved here. I don't know if there's tampering. Like, there's so much I don't know. So I hesitate to just get on here and fly off the handle about something that I don't have all the details about. But the details I do have make this almost impossible to watch. It's so brutal. I've kind of said my piece on this. Taylor, I know that you're doing the morning show and that you've had some things to say about this, but I can't fully wrap my hands around this one. I really can't. We're going from playing for millions of bucks at Tennessee to taking meetings with Tulane and UCLA. Did you see UCLA play this year? They were atrocious.
Yeah, I did.
I don't understand.
No, I actually talked about this morning, and I actually mentioned it yesterday. And when it first came out, I was like, okay, let's look at the top teams that would be willing to spend that type of money and what their quarterback situation is. Ohio State appears to love Julian Sayin. Michigan spent all the money on Bryce Underwood. They're not doing it again. Like the teams I threw out there, I actually gave Nico too much credit. I said, okay, it's either going to be Notre Dame because Stephen Jelly looks like he's going to be their starter.
I never heard of Stephen Jelly. So
he's the guy that came in for Riley Leonard last year against Georgia when he got hurt. Like he engineered a touchdown drive. He did some nice things.
I watched
and then I mentioned Florida State because I'm like, okay, they brought in Thomas Castellanos from Boston College, but if Mike Norvell's desperate enough, he'll do it. But North Carolina, which first off, Bill Belichick is not taking this guy. Not after what he pulled at Tennessee. I would be absolutely floored if Bill Belichick made this guy part of his program.
Counterpoint. Bill Belichick took Randy Moss and he took Tim Tebow and he has taken some projects and said, I'll fix that with this structure. So I don't think that Bill Belichick would appreciate that type of behavior, but he might think he can fix it.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking like Nico's not really a project. This is more of a greed sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, like it's a entourage thing. It's a motivation thing. Like, do you care about doing the right things the Patriot way? I'll use the air quotes, even though it's in North Carolina, or do you just care about how much money's in your checking account tomorrow? Like, those are two different things. But I don't care about Tennessee football, and I don't have any emotional investment to that. But I feel like that you got to weigh some other options besides, okay, you're going to pay me $3 million and this guy's going to pay me 3.2. Like, if somebody else says they'll pay you $9 million, well, let's talk about that. What do we? I don't know what we're doing here. It's just the whole thing is completely backwards, and it's the dark side of college athletics right now.
And I've heard so many people be like, "Oh, well, don't worry, he'll find a home. Alabama's going to call him." Look, I hate to give Alabama credit, and Alabama's a good football program. Good football programs don't make moves like this. Like, I don't care how bad their quarterback situation is.
He can't play for them next year, so
yeah, he can't do that. But even if he could, I don't see Kalen DeBoer doing that.
Who knows? It's it's not like it's not apples to apples with the professional world. It's not, because there are no contracts, there's no rule in place, there's no salary cap, there's no guardrails. It's just like whatever you feel in that moment, do that. And if you feel at that moment that Tennessee's is not paying you enough, you just go. And that, I think that you've made a commitment to be where you are, and you should, all things being equal, unless you've been wrong, like, generally stick to that. I just feel like there's a respectful way to go about things, and this just doesn't feel like it to me, and it feels like a massive mistake on another level. So we'll see what the actual results are of this, and if Nico Emalaya comes on the other side smelling like a rose or feels like a massive, massive error. But it's been something to watch, that's for sure. All right, there's a lot going on down in New Orleans, so we bring in our New Orleans guy, Sharif Ishak from WDSU down in NOLA. We're going to talk some Saints and some Pels. Sharif, it's chaos down there. What's going on?
I hate my life so much.
Is there one reason more so than the others?
It's always something. IAS. It is always something with the Saints or the Pelicans.
Let's start with the Saints. We'll get to the Pelicans. Let's start with Derek Carr, the shoulder injury. What do you know about when the Saints knew, how severe this is, what the situation is moving forward?
You want me to give you my opinion or what they think? What I think.
I want both of those.
My opinion is I don't think he's hurt. I think he wants out. And they didn't cut him, and they didn't trade him. So, all of a sudden, a shoulder injury has popped up out of nowhere. I'm having a hard. Something stinks about this story. Something stinks so bad when it comes to this entire story. I personally don't think he's hurt. I don't think he's hurt. I think he wanted out. He didn't get his way. So now, a few days before they start off-season activity, which happened yesterday, he says he has a shoulder injury and it could be possibly put him out for the season. What? When did this happen? I mean, just mysteriously 2 weeks before the draft. Your camp puts this out 2 weeks before the draft and a few days before your team opens off-season activities, and you're putting it out now. Why wasn't anything said in March, early March? That's when the team apparently knew about it in March. Why was nothing said? Was that just kept secret so they can, continue on with drafting a quarterback? I truly think, like many other people think, like Diana Rossini reported, I think that he does not want to be. He doesn't want the team to draft a quarterback. He wants to be the guy. He doesn't want to mentor anybody, so he wants to be cut, and they didn't do it. So I believe it. I wholeheartedly believe it. I don't think he's hurt. I mean, that's just crazy to think it came from 2023, an injury happened in 2023, it's still lingering, and now you want to get it fixed. I mean, come on. Come on, man. I'm having a hard time believing this story. Something stinks severely when it comes to the story. Now, when it comes to the Saints, they probably knew about it a month ago, and he has a shoulder issue, and they've known about it. That's their side.
So the Saints have been linked to a lot of quarterbacks over the last 5 weeks. All these quarterbacks that are coming through in the draft. Does any of that have anything to do with Derek Carr?
I truly think it does. I think they were doing their homework. So that's the part where it makes it look like they knew something was going on, an injury or him just being upset about the whole situation. So they started really doing their homework about this upcoming draft, whether if it's the first round, the 40th pick, the third round picks, whatever. They started really going in on their homework, and it's good on them to do that because they're going to draft a quarterback at some point in this draft. I'm not sure if it's 9, 40, one of the 2 third-round picks. Something is going to happen. But for Kellen Moore to be at pro days, Jackson Dart's pro days, Cam Ward's pro day, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, and some of his assistants going to Colorado to see Shedeur Sanders. They had to do their homework now that they found out this is a situation created by Derek Carr.
How do we get to this point with Derek Carr and the organization, with Derek Carr and the city, with Derek Carr just in general?
It's an amazing question. I think you saw the warning signs that happened when he was with the Raiders. Remember when he sat out? because he felt like he wanted to play. He didn't want to leave, and he felt like the organization was forcing his hand. And he feels like maybe this is happening again. If somebody paid me that much money to be on the team for one more year, I would take the money and try to build my resume and get on a team next year. I'm not going to whine and pout about I have to eventually help out a rookie quarterback. Look, I'm sure somebody eventually had to help you out before you took. I know he played a lot in his rookie year, but at some point in time, you have to act like a veteran quarterback who's getting paid a ton of money. So I just think he wanted to be a starting quarterback, didn't want anything to do with helping out and developing a young quarterback and mentoring him. And I just think he said, you know what? Kellen Moore says, I'm not his quarterback. You know what? I'm not going to be his quarterback. Let them figure it out. You guys are restructuring my contract. I'm taking my money, and I say my shoulder hurts, and I might not be able to play next year. I just think that, it's bad business, man. It's bad business from both sides. Not just his. Bad business from both sides. They should have clipped him when they had a chance to cut him and just hit the $51 million. But I understand why they couldn't, because that means they would have had to restructure more guys than just Derek Carr. So, you know what? Came back to bite them, and that's what they have to deal with now.
It's fascinating to me as far as Derek Carr goes. You've covered him. You've been at practices. You've been in press conferences. I'm not sure how much access y'all have gotten to him when the camera's not on record, but he tends to say all the right stuff. Do you think behind closed doors you're looking at a different guy? Oh,
yeah. I genuinely think he's a nice guy, but sometimes it comes off as kind of disingenuous the way sometimes things are said. And I'm sure you can pick up on it as a regular guy listening to it. It feels like it's a little fake to me. It can be a little disingenuous, and people can just pick up on it quickly. And you're just that sounds nice of him to say stuff like that. Saying and doing. I've said that millions of times on your show. Saying and doing. I feel like he's saying things, he's not doing the right thing. It's just, I feel like since day one he got into the city, I feel like he's rubbed people the wrong way. And the fans just picked up on it. People here pick up on things either. If you don't show love to the city, they're not going to show love back to you. That's how it works here. That's the one thing. You remember Drew Brees whenever Zion got drafted. If you love the city, it's going to love you back. That answers your question there. Plain and simple.
Yeah, we'll see how this saga plays out over the next few weeks, especially with the draft coming up next week. You mentioned Drew Brees talking to Zion Williamson. Let's transition to the Pelicans. They move on from David Griffin. How much of the Pelicans' struggles are at his feet?
At Zion Williamson's feet?
No, David Griffin, sorry.
Oh, David Griffin. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that the whole thing was kind of a mess. And this was never a shock. I told you last week that this was coming. It just I think things should have gone differently. I think, he did a good job of building things behind the scene really well. I mean, he put together, good draft classes, I would say good training staff and, medicine and all that stuff. But he was given the money to do all those things and build that structure, but players just couldn't stay healthy. I mean, they did a good job of building a structure back behind the scenes that many people don't get to see. But there's some things on the timeline that didn't work out. Maybe he should have traded Drew Holiday when he first got here and kind of rebooted the whole franchise and gone super young instead of trying to go all in and buy in right away and try to win a championship, and just kept doing it and it didn't work. And should have probably gone the Oklahoma City Thunder route, and maybe that would have panned out better for the Pelicans instead of trying to do too much and trying to win now when this roster didn't provide you the win now. You should have just hit the reset as soon as he came in, which he did with Anthony Davis, got some players back, but then he should have traded Drew Holiday too. And keeping Gentry, I probably wasn't his decision. He wanted to fire him. They said no. And, the Stan Van Gundy thing didn't last. It was a lot. The first 3 years kind of messed the last 3 years up. And everyone's going to say, well, they went to the playoffs 2 of those last 3 years. But getting into the play-in 3 years in a row is just not what you're supposed to be if you're selling championships to the franchise and city. So, yeah, it went sideways this year. I mean, outside of the injuries, I think it felt like it went sideways for other, reasons. Roster just didn't work. It's just you put together not a great roster.
What do you think of the Joe Dumars hire?
I'm going to echo what a lot of people say, and it's not Joe Dumars' fault. I think it's a little too lazy, and it was too much of an easy decision. You didn't cast a wide net. You didn't go through the interview process to me in the right way. At least interview a few people and see what's going on, what they think about your franchise and organization, what they could do. They hired someone they know really well. I mean, Gail knows them really well. Dennis Lauscher, Greg Bensel, Mickey Loomis. I mean, they just love, comfortability and familiarity. So, and that's what they went with. And he's a nice guy. He really is a nice guy. Winning the 2 championships as a player with the Pistons and won it as an executive in 2004, executive of the year. But has the game passed him by? I mean, he hasn't been in the front office since 2014. It's going to be a lot of questions to answer. Also, is he going to keep Willie? Is he going to keep Bryson Graham? Is Zion Williamson? Is he going to be able to get through to Zion Williamson? If not, is that it? Is this the end of Zion Williamson, considering, on and off the court stuff? Are they tired of dealing with that type of, situations? Are they ready to move on? So he's got a lot of work to do, Hunt, especially after this year.
I mean, the Zion thing is probably decision number one. That's even more important than the head coach, in my opinion. What do you think Joe Dumars is going to end up doing there?
I think he's going to try to get through to Zion. And if Zion wants to keep doing Zion ways, I think it's going to be time to move on. And I know fans are going to hate it. They don't want that. But he's only – I have to go back and look. It's, 250-something games? I'm a little off on that. But in 6 years, that's not good. I mean, you got to have a guy available. If he's not available, he's not committed on and off the court, then, they probably look at it as that we're going to wash our hands with it, and we're going to try to get some value and move on. And I wouldn't blame him at this point. But at the same time, what's going to happen. He moves on. He becomes great. That's just, the luck of the Pelicans. But he's going to try his best, I'm sure, to get through to him and see what happens from there. But, it just doesn't look good, Hunt. The optics of it on and off the court is just not great.
Not a lot great in New Orleans at the current juncture, but we'll talk to you about it next week, Sharif.
Oh, I can't wait to tell you about my draft pick next week. So looking forward to it.
Excellent. We'll do that then. Sharif Ishak, WDSU down in New Orleans. Thanks, man.
Last night on the telecast, she had more unassisted field goals than anybody in the league last year. And Dallas has been desperately in need of a point guard since Skylar Diggins-Smith left after 2018. So Paige gives them that, right? She gives them a primary ball handler who's an outstanding decision maker. I think as dangerous as Arike is with the ball in her hands, I think you put her off the ball and you get her making, more snap decisions, she becomes even more dangerous. And I think Paige also is going to benefit from playing alongside a guard like Arike, which is very different than any guard she's played alongside. And the other thing is this, UConn plays a very, a very read and react, rhythmic, equal opportunity offense, right? Mm-hmm. They are not a team that's just going to run, 60 middle ball screens and go, two-man game with Paige and Sarah Strong, right? They implemented it more than they typically do because it was so effective. But that's not what they're going to do over and over again. Well, in the WNBA, you're going to run a lot more pick and roll. And Paige Beckers is an unbelievable pick and roll player. And so you put her in those situations. She led the nation in mid-range field goal percentage this year. So if you give her that kind of space, she's going to be able to cash in, whether it's from three or the mid-range. Plus, she also was just she was top 3 in efficiency in points per possession as the pick and roll handler. Sure. And so I think she's going to, I think the pro offense is going to be very friendly to her game. And I also think her defense is really, really strong. And we saw that specifically in the semifinals and the final against South Carolina. She can wreak havoc on the defensive end. She's a big guard. She'll struggle a little bit with the physicality at times, just like we saw with Caitlin early on last year. Right. But I do think she'll adjust quickly, and we'll see her as an impact player pretty much right away.
Ryan Ruocco joins us here on Clinton and Friends the night after the WNBA draft, which he hosted last night alongside plenty others on ESPN. Dominique Malonga went second. And over the past couple years, we've seen a little bit more of the international influence on the league. What do you think and know about her game specifically, and that topic more largely about how the player pool has expanded a little bit in these past couple years?
Yeah, last night was the first time we've ever had 5 international players go in the first 15 picks. And I do think, what happens? In order to be able to scout effectively internationally, you need resources, right?
Yeah.
And what we've seen is these organizations putting more and more resources into international scouting and more and more resources just into their teams in general, which then also trickles down to international scouting. And as rosters, expand, meaning, we have a new team this year and we're going to have 2 new teams next year, you're going to need to cull talent from more places just in order to find, all the, women worthy of playing in this league. And so I think, you're seeing people scour corners or invest more time internationally than they had previously. And the game has just grown globally as well, which obviously, that affects the development and the talent that's going to be available internationally. And I think we've seen it even in the Olympics with some tighter games being played in recent years. And then I think, we see it even a player like Leonie Febish, who wasn't a high draft pick, but who was absolutely critical to the New York Liberty winning last season. And that's just one international player to mention, but we're seeing more and more of that. And Dominique Malunga, you watch the tape of her, and I think I just heard one of your callers talk about it. Her skill set looks just incredibly tantalizing. She's 6'6", with that kind of Dirk one-legged fadeaway, can pull from 3. The way she moves and cuts, there's a chance that we end up looking back and saying, obviously you had to take page number 1, but right. Malunga was actually the best player in this draft. She has that kind of talent, and she does because Seattle, the position they have the most depth at is at the 4 or the 5, and young talent there as well. And they were like, no, we're not passing up on Dominique Malunga because we're taking the best available. So, you never know exactly how things are going to translate because, the game is played differently internationally. But when you watch Dominique on tape, you're pretty blown away by what she can do and how unique her skill set is. We really don't have a 6'6" player in the league who has that level of guard skill. And so I think it'll be fascinating to watch. The closest thing we've probably seen to that in recent years was Elena Deladon, and she's 6'4", not 6'6". So very, very curious to watch Dominique in Seattle.
He's Ryan Ruocco. You can see him calling basketball games. You can hear him talking about the Yankees on the Yes Network, too. But we are here for the hoops. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your time.
All right, anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. That was an interesting point, Devin, bringing up the sort of I don't want to say Sam Bowie-like sort of situation, but the idea that in 10 years we look back on the draft and say, actually, Dominique was the player that we all figured was not going to be, was going to be good, but maybe not necessarily better than Paige Beckers. That's an interesting idea.
Listen, like I said earlier, I watched some highlights of her, and that was literally the first thing that she's doing. Not only can she dunk on you, but she's step back and she's turnaround jumpers. She's got a complete game.
Not a stick at all, by any stretch of the imagination. Really looking forward to this WNBA season. From a basketball standpoint, from a growth of the game standpoint, and from an overall sports fan standpoint, too. 888-ESPN, 888-729-3776. On the other side, we'll take some more of your calls, and the NFL draft is coming up. There's a lot of smoke. We'll figure out if any of it amounts to fire. You're listening to Clinton and Friends on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The NFL Draft.
I feel like I'm the best player in the country, and the best player should be selected number 1.
Live from historic Lambeau Field.
With the first pick.
From the first pick to Mystery Relevant.
Brock Purdy, a quarterback.
It all begins Thursday, April 24th on ESPN Radio, ESPN, and on ABC. Presented by ZipRecruiter and GNC.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Terry's Tiny Homes, Terry. Terry! Sure, as the only employee of her company, Terry was probably the front runner, but saving money getting personalized discounts with a commercial auto quote from Progressive, well, that gave Terry the edge. Over Terry.
Terry.
Keep awkwardly chanting your own name, Terry. You deserve it. Woo! Be your own Terry. See if you could save in as little as 7 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
The sports calendar is heating up, and with ESPN Bet Sportsbook, you can go from checking news and stats to placing bets in just a couple of taps. Stream games, bet live, and get exclusive offers when you link your ESPN account. Right now, you can get $100 in bonus bets when you make your first $10 wager. Download the ESPN Bet app and sign up with promo code JOEQ to get started today. That's JOEQ, Joe Q. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details. Offer not available in New York.
Turnaround season is here, and for any upcoming turnaround projects, choose the experts at the Advanced Turnaround Group from Action Industries. The Advanced Turnaround Group provides unmatched experience in turnaround management, specialty welding services, and personalized attention. With 24-hour emergency availability, trust the Advanced Turnaround Group, whose entire careers focus on turnaround excellence. Learn more at actionindinc.com, the Advanced Turnaround Group, subsidiary of Action Industries.
Today, we are shaping tomorrow.
We are researching how extreme stress impacts the immune system, from trauma victims to athletes and even astronauts.
Our work is leading the way in sepsis treatment, saving countless lives.
We're unlocking the mind with music in exciting new ways.
Our Lady of the Lake Health and LSU are improving the health of our state and beyond.
That's the impact of champions.
Imagine the impact we'll have on the future. Together, we roar.
Our 2025 Dreams Come True Radiothon, presented by the Baton Rouge Clinic, is happening right now, and we couldn't make Dreams Come True without your help. This year, Service Chevrolet, Luba, Subaru of Baton Rouge, and Duplessis Builders have each pledged to match your donations once we reach $2,000. Whatever amount you can spare will get us that much closer to making more dreams come true for local kids suffering life-threatening illnesses.
Visit 1045ESPN.com to donate today.
Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in